Bases dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It's a Friday. It's a Freestyle Friday. We've got a lot of U.S. men's national team stuff to get into. Senior national team with a win yesterday. Some talking points out of that one. The U23's know who they will be playing on Sunday to go to the Olympics. We'll get into that as well. We've got MLS preseason talk. Silly season rumors starting to ramp up a little bit as we get closer to the summer, with a lot of players potentially on the move once we get there, either on free contracts or in some fairly big transfers that could happen depending on who's got cash and who doesn't have cash. All kinds of things to get into. Mike Conti will join us at 10 o'clock as well. First off, thanks everybody who came out to the Lost Druid last night in Avondale Estates and people who joined us virtually on Twitch. It was a great turnout, great conversation. Great to see so many people who listen to the show that I've either never seen in person or have not seen for a long time in person. So it was very cool. Thanks, everybody, for being part of that. Thanks to Scott with the Flood Project for putting everything together. He's got our next gig booked for next Thursday at Red Hair up in Marietta, and we'll be there same time, 6 o'clock show start. Get there early for some specials. Should be a pretty good crowd up in Marietta, according to what we're hearing. So looking forward to that one. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. Jared, are you going to join us here at some point for one of these?
I mean, are we talking red hair in the square?
Nope, not yet. Okay,
because they have a red hair little distribution
not
center
yet.
in the Marietta Square.
Not yet. That's coming later. Not yet.
Okay, that's fine. I can probably make red hair. That's my side of town. And
well, we don't want to put you out or anything, Jared. I mean, if you can't make it, it's fine. I think we'll be okay, but it'd be nice to see you if you can come out.
How do y'all know I exist?
It's just alleged at this point.
It is.
That's true. This could be just basically some kind of voice program that activates and just hits keywords and creates sentence structure.
Yeah, this is all built on an algorithm.
Sounds about right. What is the algorithm saying about Scotland?
The algorithm is saying that UEFA needs to burn.
Wow,
the algorithm
that's a little harsh.
Very upset that
and good morning.
You have a World Cup in the year of our Lord 2022 coming up that is going to use VAR and I assume goal line technology, as it should, because it's there. Now, if you want to argue about how you use it and get nuance with it, that's fine. You want to use offside rules and do it the way MLS and some leagues do, where, we're going to take a look at offside on VAR and we're just going to look at the monitor and see what we see. We're not going to use the line like the English Premier League does. That's fine. That's a whole topic for another discussion. VAR for offside in England is fine, y'all. It's the application of the technology and using the line. If it was just using somebody at the monitor going, that's on or that's off, that'd be fine. Y'all would be fine with it. You're mad at the line. You're not mad at VAR. Get it right. B, the fact that you have VAR at the World Cup is great. The fact that you are not using any sort of VAR or goal line technology in the World Cup qualifiers is the most asinine.
Point of order.
Trash.
Point of order, Jared. Can I make something that might make your head explode even more?
Sure.
Oh, please do.
The goal line technology thing, it's not that they're not using it, it's that in some places they're not using it.
That's what I thought.
Is somehow even better.
In Turkey, they weren't
uniform.
using it for the Turkey-Netherlands game, but they were using it, or they would be using it in an upcoming game that I think the Netherlands was playing. And, yeah, that's even better.
That's even more asinine, and UEFA and FIFA need to get kicked in the face for it. Because, okay, we've decided that, at the World Cup, everything matters, and we need to make sure we get stuff right. As you should. That's awesome. But the actual World Cup qualifiers, the games that determine who goes to those games and who actually do have impact. Now, if we get stuff wrong there, it doesn't matter. That's fine. It's not like some of these groups are going to be a gaggle of chaos at the top by the end of the qualifying anyway, where some team might get in on goal differential and some team might have to go play a playoff on goal differential. So don't worry about that. We're just not going to have review for obvious missed calls or goal line technology so we can see if a ball actually crossed or not. We're not going to deal with all that. That's fine. We'll only worry about it at the big tournament. Why make sure that things go right to get there in the first place?
Yes, that's all correct. Anything else, sir?
I mean, not really. Like,
You didn't even get to the whole point about Scotland yesterday and what they were upset about.
Oh, they were upset about because Ryan Christie got. I mean, I shared the GIF. I'll try and drop the GIF in the Twitch pitch later if I can. But like Ryan Christie just gets what would you call it? A 2-point tackle in wrestling?
Yeah, it was a good waist lift takedown.
I mean, it's a floated ball into the box, and the Austrian defender just kind of grabs him and brings him down. The ref's looking right at it, doesn't call it. He's got both hands around the waist and pulls him down. No penalty awarded. I mean, the game ends up 2-2 because John McGinn hit the shot of the week for Scotland in like the 85th
The shot of his life.
Somebody like heads the ball back in for clearance, and John McGinn just decides, I'm going to overhead this ball, and he gets on the bike and puts it in the far corner. They asked him after the game, he's like, I'm just glad I didn't break my neck.
Oh, that's good.
I mean, he hits the shot of his life, rescues a draw for Scotland against Austria. It's just the dumbest game. Every time Scotland scored, the skies would open up, and it looked like we were going to have to build an ark. Like, well, after their first goal, the vision on the screen got bad. It was raining so hard. Nothing about that game made sense. I forget the name of Austria's striker off the top of my head. He's fantastic. Younger guy. I can see his name. I just can't think of it, and God knows I won't be able to pronounce it when I do.
Kalajdzic. Sasa Kalajdzic.
Yeah,
2 goals.
Yeah, had 2 goals. Absolutely fantastic. Dude was a lot of fun to watch. He would be, I think, one to watch for the rest of Austria's qualifiers if that is your bag.
Hey, Bernd has a comment for you.
Oh, God.
Jarrett's elegantly bypassing the fact that Scotland had no business tying that game and got lucky on 2 set pieces.
Absolutely they did.
They should have had a 3rd goal, at least a penalty, though. That was a pretty horrendous takedown that wasn't called.
Yeah, the penalty miss was bad. The first goal they get is off of a header where somebody just doesn't cover their man and he puts a header on frame, and it was very like, man, Scotland's not really going to play great ball here, but they're going to get a couple set pieces and or they're going to get a set piece goal and they're going to get something out of nowhere that probably will never be replicated by that individual. Hello, John McGinn, who has made a good life for himself.
Thomas Dewin says, I want to be surprised that it took that long for Jarrett to work through a bit of negativity before he then got to the Golasso for Scotland, but I'm not. It's on brand. I think Jarrett's turned into a robot. He's been so negative.
Robot Jarrett, yes.
Johannes, even after fully expecting the Jarrett rant. Jarrett, what are you doing, man? Even after fully expecting the Jarrett rant this morning, it still surprises me when it happens.
Yeah.
He was so ranty that he's broken now.
There we go.
Whatever.
Basically, yeah.
I mean, it was... I have bigger issues with the fact that, I mean, aside from the game yesterday, I have bigger issues with the fact that the inconsistency of using video-assisted replay and goal line technology, that you're going to use it at the cup, but you're not going to use it to decide who goes to the cup. That I have a huge issue with. The game yesterday was just stupid. But I am very happy that we've gotten some World Cup qualifiers that have been straight-up drunk, and I love that.
There's been a few drunken ones. There's been a few that we would expect to be no contests. As the Keepers Union points out in the Twitch pitch, England's goalkeeper touched the ball 5 times last night in a 5-0 win against San Marino. There's a talking point that's come out of that I want to get into here in a second. But other games from yesterday that were drunk, Hungary and Poland intoxicated, 3-3. Scotland, Austria was very drunk at 2-2. Spain probably wishes they were drunk, 1-1 with Greece. That's no bueno. Zlatan has a hand in Sweden's goal as they win 1-0 over Georgia. Switzerland goes to Bulgaria, wins 3-1. That's impressive. Denmark goes to Israel, wins 2-0. John's favorite Faroe Islands got a 1-1 draw with Moldova. And Andorra made Albania work for it. No, not at all. Albania 1-0 over Andorra. That's who England plays next. Gary Lineker got people riled up this morning when he said, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, when you've got teams playing like England and San Marino, for example, and it's no contest, and it's a waste of time. It's a waste of 90 minutes. I mean, let's not be real. Let's not fake this. There's no contest here. He basically said that they shouldn't have the tournament the way they do it here and have the lowest ranked teams playing at this point. He said, surely we've reached the stage where the lowest ranked nations should play amongst themselves to qualify for the right to play at this level. It's become absurd. Cue the screaming and running through the streets and people angry. All right, at first, that's one thing that everybody went nuts about. Guys, that's exactly what CONCACAF does. It's the exact same format that CONCACAF does.
Okay, so I'm literally about to ask that question. Isn't that what CONCACAF is doing?
That's what they've always done, and it's what they're doing right now, where they have the smaller nations play against themselves. Then you have teams get into the final round. In a lot of ways, it makes sense. Because how is San Marino going to improve as a national team? They're not going to do it by 5-0 losses to England in a game where everybody knows it's a no contest. It's a walk through the park for England. Wouldn't they get better? And they do in Nations League. Now, this Nations League can serve this purpose for improving the smaller countries, because who do they play? Each other. They play competitive games, and they get games that actually mean something to them. This game meant nothing because it's not going to happen. You're not going to qualify for the World Cup. Why don't you have a split in Europe where the top half waits for teams to play down? You play games instead of San Marino losing to England 5-0 where the goalkeeper touches it 5 times. San Marino plays Liechtenstein. They play Albania. They play the teams that are closer to them in rank. It's more competitive. It's a better match. And then the best of those teams go into a final round. It also serves the purpose of not having quite as many games in Europe, potentially, for some of the bigger teams. And that's going to be an issue with club games being more plentiful coming up. If you're going to increase Champions League, if you're going to do all these other things, you're going to need to find fewer games somewhere. Now, all this is going to be up for discussion when you get to the 48-team World Cup. That also needs to be understood. Everything changes when you get to that. Qualification processes change. But it doesn't do anything good for England to play this match yesterday. It doesn't do anything good for San Marino to play this match yesterday either. Everybody's yelling at Gary Lineker, but you've got confederations doing exactly what he's talking about, and they've been doing it for decades upon decades.
I mean, San Marino's what, 210 in the world?
I guess. I don't usually go past about 50, so yeah.
I'm assuming you're in the ballpark if you did that
Sure.
research, because I don't know.
Sure.
So that one shining moment where UMBC beats Virginia, that's what everyone is sitting here, I guess, and they're hoping or looking at.
No, they're not. No. And that's the point. People bring that up, and that is so incorrect. Because it's not UMBC against Virginia. Who was the last place team in UMBC's conference? It was them. It doesn't matter who they were. It was them against England. It's them against UConn. It's them against the best team in the league. It's not, the plucky upstart who got into the NCAA tournament, who had to do something to get there. Why do you have conference tournaments? To eliminate teams.
Yeah.
You're proving Gary Lineker's point. Accidentally. But that's what it is. Because it's not even the team that won the conference tournament to get in. It's the team that would have finished last in that conference who is then playing that game. So the NCAA basketball tournament would agree with Gary Lineker in his formatting here.
But it's for me, it's not even good television to watch England sit there and James Ward-Prowse puts in one and Ollie Watkins puts in one. It's like, yeah, this is an expected result. And for anybody who's sitting there and either wondering or hoping that a plus 5-digit underdog, and I mean that would be true degenerate juice boxness if you wanted to do anything with a matchup like this, that it's going to benefit a San Marino, that it's going to benefit an Albania or an Andorra or anyone like this to have these matchups. It's so counterproductive to the growth of the sport that it gives me a migraine that people still want to have these kinds of things instead of sitting there and have these teams in these countries that are below 150 playing each other, continue to grow, continue to evolve. And yes, the San Marino keeper had a boatload of saves, and it could have been like 8 or whatever. And it was, his time to sit there and be on the world stage. But it's not productive to the overall aspects of the world game if you're going to continue to have this kind of stuff. Play against your peers where it's more competitive, it's a better TV product, and you could sit there and showcase who is 1 through 50, who's going to be fighting for each other, who's 50 through 100 fighting with each other, who's 100 to 150 fighting with each other, who's 150 to 210 fighting with each other, so they can continue to get from a D to a C, from a C to a B, and from a B to an A. You don't do that with Ds playing As all the time.
It's not that simple. It's not just the FIFA rankings. You're talking about the confederations. You don't worry about the FIFA ranking of it. You split, basically. And, I mean, in CONCACAF, you more than split the top half from the bottom half. In Europe, you could probably do half and half, and you would have, or maybe less with seeds. So your top, however you're going to do it, and then we're going to have to see how the qualification changes and how they want to change this process. But let's say you seed 12 teams. Okay, cool. They don't have to go through that. Maybe there's another group that plays against the winners of these smaller groups. And then you have everybody else do games, because for those countries to get better, they have to play games. So they need to play more games than your Englands and your Germanys and such. San Marino needs to play Liechtenstein. They need to play those teams in competitive games that mean something. Then if they win that, cool. Then they get to go up against, I don't know the ranking off the top of my head, somebody like a Bulgaria, somebody like a Hungary, that next tier. Then the winners of that go into the final round, and you play a group of 4, and you play, 6 games, and you go through. And if you finish second in the group, you get a playoff opportunity. However you want to structure it to give the best teams an opportunity to go, give the smaller teams more competitive games, because you're not structuring it with San Marino and England having the equal chance to go to the World Cup, because we know it's not equal. So don't do it that way. Make it better for San Marino, make it better for England on both sides. That's what it needs to be. Mm-hmm. Will says, you think there's going to be VAR? Go ahead, Jared.
Go ahead.
Will had a question for you, Jared. He says, do you think there's going to be VAR in Costa Rica or Honduras? I believe CONCACAF actually has a program that they are trying to get VAR across the board in CONCACAF. I don't know where it stands off the top of my head. But that is something that CONCACAF was trying to do across the board as a region for qualifiers. I don't know if they'll have it this time around, but that was the idea.
I don't know if they will or not. My biggest issue, though, with it is still that UEFA is doing it for some qualifiers, but not all. Yes. The inconsistency is unacceptable in 2021, especially from a confederation like UEFA that's going to carry itself as the torchbearer. And you're going to be that inconsistent? It's killing me.
Yeah, 100%. It's UEFA's got to have it across the board. There's just no excuse. There's zero.
Like, if you don't want to do it, then just don't do it across the board. I'll disagree with you, but at least make it consistent one way or another.
Yeah, one or the other, and don't do an either or selective locations.
Exactly. Yeah, don't scattershot this like it's bird shot coming out of a shotgun.
Okay, so on the CONCACAF thing, sorry, I was off. They're adding it for 2021 competitions. I know CONCACAF Champions League will have it. CONCACAF Gold Cup will have it. They do not say World Cup qualifying. That's going to be the question is... They've done a lot of training. They have been working towards this, but I don't know if World Cup qualifying final round will have it. I don't think the rounds currently going have it. But at least they're working towards doing it. I don't know what UEFA's plan is. And UEFA shouldn't have these issues.
No, it shouldn't. It's unacceptable. It's so damn sophomoric.
Yeah.
Y'all don't need to be doing this. I mean, figure yourself out, UEFA. I'm trying also to work through a sense of bias because I have this feeling in my head that UEFA is going to be stubborn about this, whether they are or not. But I just have this dreading gut feeling that they're going to be super stubborn about all of it, and there's no reason to be. There's no need for all of this to be this big of an issue. You got enough problems in the game around the world anyway, especially when it comes to the World Cup. Don't create more unnecessarily, y'all.
John Nason's trying to provoke you, Jarrett. You ready?
And how would he do that?
Pretty easily. The idea about the smaller countries or the lower ranked countries having to play off to get into the final round of qualifying, John Nason says, but then England-Scotland would never happen in the future.
That's what we have the Euros for, and that's what we have friendlies for. And by friendlies, I mean murders.
That's it.
Scotland should absolutely be in one of those smaller groups. I mean, looking at the way they perform, they should absolutely be one.
They
of
would be one
groups.
of the
they
bigger
have to
teams,
earn their way up to compete against the likes of England for World Cup qualifying.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. They would be a heavyweight in one of those smaller groups. That's the way you would do it. Keepers Union says Nations League was a surprisingly successful way of turning friendlies into interesting way of playing teams at your level. We saw it here in CONCACAF with Montserrat. I mean, Montserrat was the worst team in the world, according to the rankings, for quite a while. And you get a chance to play competitive games instead of going into the game knowing, all right, are we going to lose 8-0 or are we going to lose 12-0? You go into games where you can compete and you get better. And they've won 5 of their last 10, and they've been a competitive team. That's what you need. That's how it gets better. And Nations League, I was wrong about it. I did not like the idea of Nations League. I thought it was just a dumb, hackneyed thing to try to generate some kind of competition that wasn't going to be meaningful. 100% wrong. It worked in CONCACAF. I think it worked in UEFA surprisingly well. It gives you exactly what Keepers Union says, games against teams at your level. Thomas Jewin says you want to play up a little, but not as far as San Marino versus England, 100%. It decreases blowouts, as Abby points out. Katie says Europe needs a hex or an octo or an ocho or whatever we're going to call it. Yeah, I'd be all down for that if you do essentially what South America does, where you get 10 teams. That's your final round, and, I mean, you get so many more qualification spots, and maybe you have a couple groups like that, and you play everybody home and away. You play a longer slog, but you're playing a more competitive group. Europe, you have so many berths in the World Cup that you don't have to go down that road. It's a good thing for some of these countries that talk about how great they are that wouldn't be able to handle that kind of situation very well. Keepers Union says San Marino are literally postmen. Literally postmen. And
I would love to see
they lost 5.
The European powers have to play in a hex. They would not know what to do.
It'd be interesting. Johanna says, while I understand your point, I'm pretty sure UEFA also wants to make sure that the big nations qualify for the World Cup. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't think they want groups where England, Netherlands, Belgium are in the same qualifying group and only 2 qualify. Yeah, but you can avoid that. I mean, the format in CONCACAF is essentially that the U.S. and Mexico are always going to qualify. I mean, the U.S. stubbed their toe and then broke their foot falling over in 2018. Mexico almost did in 2014. But it's designed to give them every opportunity to qualify. You can create the same kind of structure. And you're going to have so many qualification berths in Europe with the 48-team World Cup that it can be done without having these games, or at least not having as many of them. And create second, opportunities. I mean, if you do something where you get down to 4-team groups and the winners automatically go through, and then the second place teams move on, and you seed it out to where you won't have England, Netherlands, and Belgium in the same group unless one of them falls on hard times and their ranking drops. You can structure it and protect the big teams, but still not have these games that nobody has any interest in. I mean, really, were there a lot of people sitting around watching England and San Marino? Probably not.
Probably just diehard. Probably the same kind of people who go honestly, to watch Alabama play, Texas Southwest Christian
for a quarter.
I'm gonna go watch my team beat somebody into the dirt.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool, but what are you getting out of this? You're not getting better for it. They're not getting better for it.
Yeah, it's just something that nobody really wins from here. Thomas Jawin throws one out there. Top 20 are ranked in 5 groups of 4, playing for 10 guaranteed spots. The 10 losers then get dropped into something like a last chance qualifier against the winners from a set of groups and playoffs among the lower ranked teams. Yeah, I mean, it's essentially what CONCACAF's doing with that kind of way. That's the same kind of format. So, I mean, that could absolutely work. Byrne says Scotland's ranked number 46 in the world, Jarrett, and he feels like that's about right. I honestly thought it was a little bit lower than that.
I didn't think they were that high.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit lower. Johannes says that's exactly.
I don't mean to just be negative about everything with them. You kind of have to be realistic about it. That's, that's about where they are.
Yeah. Johannes says that's exactly why they created the Nations League. That's the competition that they will use to provide more competitive games. World Cup and Euro qualifiers will not be designed for that. Never forget the politics and money involved. I just don't know how much money there is in England San Marino. I mean, right now there's none, but it's unique. I don't think that game sells out. I don't think that game is a draw on TV. I think you can create a more compelling structure. And sure, you don't have to go exactly Nations League style where it is so subdivided that you don't have some potential mismatches. But I'm with Lineker on this. I don't think you need to have England and San Marino to have a quality World Cup qualification structure. Like Germany, Iceland, and thank you, Johannes, to your German national team for trying to make sure that Iceland doesn't qualify for the World Cup and bore us all to tears by putting 10 men behind the ball and kicking the ball as high and far away from their own goal as possible, not actually trying to complete a pass or anything like that. Ooh. I'm much appreciative of your German national team, Johannes. But that's at least somewhat competitive. There's a gap at some point where it's just not even worth having those games. And I think you can find a way to make it work. I would think if you had more competitive fixtures, those would be bigger draws for money. And that would be the way to do it. So I don't know. I think the biggest thing is, what does it look like when you get to 48 teams? What does that qualification cycle look like? They should find a way to minimize these kinds of games, in my opinion anyway. I think you can figure something out to where you can still get all the money you want because, of course, but you can also make sure we don't have these kind of games because it's a waste of everybody's time.
Well, but I would think that more competitive matchups, and I'll put those 3 words in quotes, would make it more of an attractive TV product instead of sitting there and looking at England putting up a boat race number on a San Marino or something like that.
So Europe's going to get 3 extra spots in World Cup qualifying for 2026. Not a whole lot more, but still more. I mean, you've got 16 total. You can create a structure that still makes it where your top teams should qualify, but also eliminate some of these meaningless games. There's got to be a way to do it. There's smarter people than us who can figure that out. But I think Lineker's got a good point. Byrne thinks Scotland can scrape into the World Cup when there's 48 teams. What do you think, Jarrett?
That'd be awesome. I don't know if that's the case. That'd be awesome, though. Imagine putting them in a group with England in the World Cup.
Oh.
Imagine the murders that would occur.
They're in a group in the Euros. Like, why is this a big deal?
I think the World Cup would carry a little more weight than the Euros, and it's not to discount the Euros. Don't get me wrong.
The Euros are actually where's that game going to be played?
Oh God, where is that game going to be played?
It's in London, isn't it? Isn't it at Wembley?
I guess it's in London.
I think. I mean, it's not in Washington D.C. or Philadelphia.
Well, it could be in Hampton in Scotland, but I'm not sure where exactly it was going to be
But
played.
either way, that's better than it being in Los Angeles or Atlanta or Mexico City or wherever it would be in 2026.
Yes.
The idea of Scotland knocking England out of a World Cup is something that would fuel that country for a good 30
generations.
People would die on their deathbed generations from now. Did I ever tell you about the time my great-grandfather watched England get knocked out of a World Cup by Scotland?
You guys are living in fantasy land. Like, that's actually possible.
Frequently. No, it's not.
I mean, when was the last time Scotland was in the World Cup?
1738.
No, stop that. That's nonsense. Don't be that guy. I think it's 1998, if I remember right.
Yeah, I believe Jock Stein got them close. He had a heart attack while literally managing Scotland, actually. That's how dangerous the Scottish national team is. One of the greatest managers in Scottish history literally had a heart attack during a game.
Have you seen Scotland play, Jarrett?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On purpose.
Yeah. I think it was 98 was the last time they were in. 90 they got to the knockout round, if I remember right. Or did they get knocked? Did they eliminate? No, they didn't. I think they lost out on like goal differential or something. I think it was 98. Anyway, we know now.
Either way, it's not important.
Yeah, but I mean that's not that long ago. But that's not ancient times. It is doable. They do have to up their game a little bit, and drawing at home to Austria isn't maybe the best of starts. Fair enough?
Oh, yeah. No, you needed to win that game. I shouldn't say you needed to. It was better than losing the game, but it wasn't ideal. There you go. That's where I'll be with it.
Yeah. Spain drawing with Greece, not ideal. Germany, Italy,
Hilarious.
England all winning. It's funny. Not ideal. Germany, Italy, England all winning. Sweden got their win. Full credit to Norway ahead of their game yesterday, where they wore T-shirts before the game. Human rights on and off the pitch. Martin Odegaard, their captain, said that the players were planning to do something to show their feelings. They also wore T-shirts saying respect on and off the pitch as they warmed up. Germany yesterday lined up before the kickoff wearing T-shirts over their national team jerseys bearing the message human rights. This is going to continue ahead of this World Cup, and at 150 million% should. And it will be a bigger
Scotland
talking
did not
point
take
going
the knee
forward.
before the game either.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of debate about that, and it's a gesture that doesn't.
Else, but
it's a gesture, and action is needed. It's beyond the gesture point where I think some then feel like that's okay because they're making a gesture. No, it's action. And yeah, I still haven't heard anything from UEFA about what happened in the Rangers match. Still haven't heard anything. That's the problem. Taking a knee or deciding not to take a knee or whatever, that has nothing to do with it. UEFA has not done anything yet about this that we've heard about. If they are investigating, they should be telling the world they are investigating and what they are investigating and how they are investigating and making it super clear that they're taking it seriously. They're not. There's been nothing going on that we know of, which makes you wonder if they're taking it seriously because they haven't taken these things seriously. It's time for it to change. It's time for a lot of the stuff to change across the board, and the knee or it's not going to change it on its own. This is a little bit bigger step, in my opinion, because there's no wiggle room here. You're wearing a shirt that says human rights. You're wearing a shirt that says human rights on and off the pitch, respect on and off the pitch. That is, I think, maybe a bigger gesture in a lot of ways. Okay, that's good. Again, UEFA, clubs, national federations have to go further than that, and we will see how that goes. It's got to change. There's just no way around it. It has to change, and we will see how that goes. We have people yelling at us in the Twitch pitch. That's always fun. Bots are furious today. Good times. Blocked. Yeah, human hate bot. That's true, Kefsey.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, welcome. It's good times. We'll see how this goes. But
thank you.
UEFA not dealing with this stuff is a problem, and FIFA not dealing with this stuff is a problem, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These are things we've talked about a lot. None of it's changed. It's got to at some point. It just has to. Let's get into the U.S. and their match with Jamaica yesterday. Outshot Jamaica 28-9, 69% possession to 31. Jamaica was better than some of the games the U.S. has played here lately. It was a lot better than Trinidad and Tobago. It was a lot better than El Salvador and Panama. But it was still a 4-1 win for the U.S. They had to work for it. What did you take out of it, Jared? Did you get a chance to watch much of the U.S.? Was there anything that stood out to you here, or were you yelling about Scotland the whole time?
I was able to go back and forth a bit. It's one of those, like, I don't want to, like, take too much out of it, in the sense that I don't want to, like, jump to large conclusions in the grand scheme of things about, like, well, it shouldn't have been that hard, this, that, the other. I mean, there's individual moments, Serginho Dest is still absurdly fun to watch. I think you would love to not have to, like, wait until, late in the game to really put it away. But, it was a friendly against a team that's you might end up seeing before it's all said and done in qualifying.
Mm-hmm. Probably.
I think it's good. I think it's good to get friendlies against teams like that. I mean, you're not going to, like, play Mexico in a friendly every time you get, your schedule or anything like that. And you're not always going to play Costa Rica, but I think it's always good to see teams that are going to be from your confederation and teams that you're going to have to deal with in a serious environment where you can say, hey, if this goes great, great. If it doesn't, it's not a total disaster. And that's going to be okay. I don't know. Like, I hesitated to make any, like, grand sweeping anything off of this.
No, there's not too much grand sweeping you can do out of this. Serginho Dest, excellent. Brooks was good. I mean, the defense wasn't super tested. I thought Brooks was good. Sebastian Lletget was excellent. Brendan Aronson, for me, has played his way into a conversation about, is he a must starter? We went through last night on the show kind of a working lineup, how that could be going forward. There's options at pretty much every position. One big thing is Serginho Dest. He's the best player you have on either side in the back. Best left back you have, best right back you have. So you got to figure that out. He says he doesn't care which side he plays on. That's fine. But he did say, and he said this earlier in the week, talking about playing in a line of 4 versus playing in a line of 5 or 3, however you want to call it. 3 center backs, essentially, is the important part. Des said, I think it's a little bit better talking about the way he's playing at Barcelona, which is in a line of 5. I think it's a little bit better because I have someone behind me, and I like to take some risks in my game. If I get to take risks in the game, I am at my best. Greg Berhalter hinted in his pregame media call that he might try out 5 across the back. I don't think that works with the U.S., but if Serginho Dest is your best player, do you structure a way of playing around getting the best out of your best player? Let's start with the first question, Jarrett. Is Serginho Dest the most important player for the United States men's national team?
I don't know.
If he's not, who is?
You know what? It's funny. A year ago, I'd have said Pulisic, but I don't know. That's the thing is, like, I'm not saying that Dest isn't. I just don't know if he is. But then again, I don't know who you say if it isn't him.
A lot of people say no, and I'm wondering who is then.
Like,
because I don't know.
In 6 months, it might be Brendan Aronson.
I don't see that kind of ceiling for Brendan Aronson, but Brendan Aronson's becoming a guy I got to have in the lineup. And if you play 3-5-2, 5-3-2 to get the best out of Dest attacking, it's going to get harder to get Gio Reyna, Brendan Aronson, maybe Sebastian Lletget. Everybody craps on Sebastian Lletget, and he's been maybe your most consistent player.
I don't know why.
Weston
Sebastian
McKennie.
Lletget's just kind of cruising on in life, playing well, and plays pretty well in the league, plays well for the national team, not bothering anybody. Leave the man alone.
Walchara with a good point, and I think this is a definite thing you can argue. Weston McKennie, a lot of people feel like he's the best player. Okay.
Yeah.
Either way you play, if you play 4-3-3, if you play 4-3-3 or 3-5-2/5-3-2, because we don't think 3-4-3 is on the cards with this. Either way you play that way, your midfield's pretty much structured the same way. So McKinney's going to be the same job. It's not going to really change for him. I don't know if you really need to structure a team around that box-to-box midfielder, that 8. So I think you're good either way there. If McKinney's your best guy, is Dest your second best? And then you have to figure out how to get the best out of him. That's the question. And my concern is, okay, I went through it yesterday. If you're playing the Nations League semifinal tomorrow, and you have to pick a lineup right now for it, I think Dest goes to left back and Cannon's at right back. Cannon didn't really give you anything yesterday, so maybe I flip it and go Dest at right back and Anthony Robinson at left. Robinson and Cannon are fighting it out on opposite sides for a starting spot. I think it's Brooks and Long right now, although Long's spot is up for grabs. Tyler Adams, if he's available, McKinney. I'm putting Aronson in that midfield. I'm putting Brendan Aronson in that midfield with McKinney as 8s in front of Tyler Adams. It's Pulisic wide, it's Reyna wide, and it's somebody up top. If Daryl Dike is available, that's who I'm going with.
Yeah.
All right, if you go 5-3-2, 3-5-2, if you're going to play that way about it, all right, you're going to add another center back, and I mean, you can add whoever you want there. You can go in whatever direction you want to go. You don't have 2 center backs squared away, in my opinion. So if you add another one, does that help you? I don't know. It frees up Dest to basically be a winger. All right, that's good. On the right side, okay. Who is it on the left in that role? You know, I mean, I'll tell you who it could be in a few years is a George Bello, because I think that would suit him really well to be able to go forward a lot more freely. He's not ready for that yet. Your midfield's going to be the same, but then you're going to play 2 up top. Do you play Gio Reyna in a free role with a forward? Do you play 2 forwards? Do you play Sargent and Dike? Do you go into that kind of direction? I think 3-5-2, 5-3-2, whatever you want to call it, creates more questions than it actually helps you get better. I think the 4-3-3 is the way to go, because I like the balance of Dest on one side in the back and whoever is the better performing outside back on the other. The right center back with Brooks. A midfield of Adams, McKinney, and Aronson. Pulisic, if he plays better than he did yesterday. Reyna, if he plays better than he did yesterday. And the best performing forward, which I think is up for grabs. I think It gives you a little more structure and balance and is easier to slot into. If you go the other way, you might get more out of Dest, but I think you create more problems.
Because up top, then you're trying to figure out who is going to be there in a combination of Pulisic, Reyna, Dike, you know, and then you get into Sargent, Altidore, and Jossie's Artist. But you're creating an issue.
Well, no. You've got the problem with Jossie's Artist, Dike, Sargent. That's a problem already because you don't have a settled number 9. That hasn't changed. You're trying to figure out if you take away one of your front 3 and put it into the back. You're trying to figure out who it is in the back and then who gets dropped from the front. That's what it comes down to. So who are you dropping, Reyna or Pulisic? Right. You're not going to play Reyna and Pulisic up top and drop Sargent or Dike or Altidore or Zardes.
Right.
You're not going to do that. So you're going to drop one of Pulisic or Reyna, or you're going to move the other one into the midfield and drop Aronson. And I wouldn't do that right now. Other people would. You could move Reyna there and play him as a 10. You could play Pulisic as a second forward with a forward. There's a lot more ifs and huhs and whats in a 5-3-2, 3-5-2 with this group than there is in a 4-3-3. I think it's 4-3-3. I think you're building with that. I think you stick with that and don't overcomplicate it right now. I don't think you need to.
No, I agree.
Now, if you want to go in a little bit different way, and let's go back to the 3-4-2-1 that we saw here in Atlanta with Frank de Boer, where he had Pitti and Barco playing underneath Joseph. If you want to create that kind of a 3-4-3 structure, so basically 3 center backs, wing backs, a box midfield, and a forward. Okay, your forward, you're still having the same discussion. Who is it? Let's say it's DK for now. You can then bring Reyna and Pulisic in centrally. They can flare out, but they come in centrally. You have your two midfielders that you're going to have to probably play Adams and McKennie there. And you're going to have three center backs behind. You still have to figure out who the third center back is. That's a little better. You drop Aronson or you drop Reyna or Pulisic and you play two of them there. You still have to drop an attacker for an extra center back. I don't think it helps you get better. I think it complicates it more.
Yeah, I think you're creating more numbers headaches by doing something with a 5-3-2, 3-5-2 than you would be with what we saw yesterday.
Yep. Okay, a bunch of comments on the Twitch pitch about this conundrum a little bit. Let me go back up to the beginning of it. A lot of people think Pulisic is still the best player in this team, and I don't think you have to really build anything around him. I think it's McKennie. You don't have to build around him. Dest is fine. Like I don't think you need to change the structure to get the best out of Serginho Dest. He's doing just fine. But if he's going to take risks as an outside back, you just have to be able to cover that. You have to have the right people around it. Colonel's takeaways. Jamal Lowe's chip was sweet. Ends a deep personal scoring drought. Needs to carry it forward for Swansea City in the championship.
There you go, Colonel.
No, y'all can shut up. It's okay. It's good for Jamaica. It's good for Swansea. Hopefully he does, Colonel. I'm very hopeful for your Swans, not John Swans, because he's still mad at Mindy Kaling.
Right.
This is very much an inverted sorry, Alex.
Yeah, basically. Speaking of Alex, Sebastian Lletget is old school U.S. men's national team. The grit and drive without the elite talent. We still need those, like Alejandro Bedoya used to provide. I'm a little offended, Alex, about the lack of elite talent for Sebastian Lletget. I think if Sebastian Lletget was playing in the Austrian Bundesliga, that people would rate him better. I think people all of a sudden started rating Brendan Aronson better when he moved to the Austrian Bundesliga.
Right.
I think people rate Jordan Sibachu better than Jossie Zardes because he plays in Europe. I think people rate anybody who's not in MLS higher. And people who like MLS do this too. I don't know why. I think there are players who should beat Sebastian Lletget out. But have they? Will they? He's in the squad for me. He's in the squad completely. And he's going to play plenty in these qualifiers. He is a talent. I think he maybe he doesn't have Chelsea level talent, but he's right there with so many players in this group. He hasn't looked out of place. I think Lletget's been a great fit, and if he's outplaying Aronson, if he's outplaying Reyna, he should be playing ahead of him. I think Aronson's in a really good run of form, so I put Aronson in there ahead of some of the others. But if Sebastian Lletget's in there, he's earned it. He's earned it with his performances.
Yeah, I mean, Sebastian Lletget just goes in there, does what, this is going to sound so matter-of-fact and so plain, but that's a good thing. You go in there, you do what you're asked to do, you keep doing it, you keep performing, you keep getting more reps, you keep showing up, you get 2 goals the other day. You keep doing what you're supposed to do. And so for me, it's like, yeah, he's going to be a continued part of this because he just goes in and he produces each and every time that he's in there.
Will says, if you could come up with another defensive midfielder, would you play Dest on the left and Adams on the right like he has at Red Bull at RB Leipzig? Or do you think Adams is the best D-mid in the pool? I think Adams is the best D-mid in the pool. I think it's a big drop to Johnny or Jackson Ewell or guys like that. I think you need Adams there centrally right now. I do. If you get to that point, you could have those two as wing backs, sure. That would be good. Tafka, going kind of from a negative perspective on Twitter, says, I think a 3-back system is a good approach to elite competition, against elite competition. If it gets the best out of Dest, then all the better. When we play teams we know will control, then 4-3-3 with the fullbacks up is fine. I think the idea is you want to get to the point that you're controlling, period. And I understand where you're going, and I think in certain game situations, yeah, you're going to need to have an extra player to go to a line of 5. You'd like to get to the point that you can do that without subbing. without making, big dramatic changes to your lineup. You're not there yet, but that's where you're headed. You don't want to have to be that team that is dominating your Jamaicas and Hondurases and Guatemalas and plays a 4-3-3 and controls possession, but then against Mexico says, oh, we got to sit back with a line of 5. You don't want to be that team. You maybe still are to a degree. I don't know if you'll play Mexico that way. If you play Germany or Belgium or top teams in Europe, do you play that way in a World Cup? Right now, do you sit back and defend? A lot of people would say you should. I don't know if Greg Berhalter will, and that's going to be an interesting situation when we get to 22, when he faces somebody that has more talent. Does he back down? Does he get defensive? He didn't really do that during his time in Columbus. So I'll be fascinated to see that. I think you need to figure out the system, period, and how to get the best out of your best players. And I think it's in a 4-3-3, even against a top team. I think 4-3-3 is your best way to play with your best players. But as we saw yesterday, you need more from your best players. Christian Pulisic, not really great in 45 minutes. Gio Reyna, not really great in 45 minutes. You need more from those guys. If they can't give it, then yeah, it's Brendan Aaronson's time. He can play out wide. He can slot one of those wing positions that tucks inside. I mean, again, as we've talked about, I think all offseason long, talking about Atlanta United, positions, formations are very overrated in this discussion. Like, we're trying to shoehorn things into a rigid description of how a left winger should play. That's not how the game works anymore. So, I mean, Christian Pulisic is the left winger in a 4-3-3. Was he standing out in the touchline the whole time? No, not always, because he had Serginho Dest bombing up and down the wing, and you're trying to create room for him. Brendan Aronson can play that role. He'll play it differently, but he can play that role. You need the best players playing. And if Pulisic's not playing consistently for Chelsea, if Reyna's not in form, and he's been fairly inconsistent, next man up. Next man up, period.
So does that answer our question then about, important players that, you need Pulisic in form in the hex octagon, whatever we're calling it now. I forget how many sides we've decided we're adding to this.
It's 8.
Okay. It's does that make him the most important guy if you're looking at him going, we need you in form?
No, because I think you can win without him in form. I think yesterday's a prime example. I don't think you have one guy that it revolves around. That's why I wouldn't change the shape for Dest. I wouldn't change it for Pulisic either. You've got enough talent now that, okay, if Pulisic's having an off day, there should be somebody else who steps up. And in this case, it was in Serginho Dest. It's been Weston McKennie at times. You're not one player reliant. Like it at times in the past, you were about Landon Donovan or Clint Dempsey. You needed them to be on one, or you were going to have a rough day. Now, you've got enough talent. It shouldn't be one player. You need Pulisic to play better, I think, especially when you get into a World Cup in 22 and the talent level jumps. Yeah, you need him playing better than he is now. You need him playing. You can't go from playing 45 minutes here and 45 minutes there to being at your best. It's impossible. He needs to be playing, and that's going to be a big conversation for him, his agent, for Chelsea, for Greg Berhalter in the summer.
I mean, we had when we were trying to figure out the lineup yesterday, it was like 18 guys.
There's a lot more than that, John. There's a lot more than 18. That was off the cuff with what's been available lately. You could go 30. You could maybe go more than that. I mean, it's a good problem to have. Well, yeah, it's a good problem to have. It's also not established yet, which is a bad problem to have. Dr. D says who's the best striker right now for the U.S. men's national team should always start. I don't have an answer to that. I don't think it's...
What day is it? Because right now that's not set in stone.
I don't know who it is. It's not Josh Sargent for me yet. It's not Daryl Dike yet for me. It's not Weah, if you want to move him inside for me. It's not Altidore because he hasn't been healthy in a long time. It's not Akinola. It's not Zardes. I don't know who it is. It's whoever's playing best at the time, which is nice that you have options. That's good. You can't build chemistry with options.
Right.
Because you're constantly chopping and changing. It's a national team, and you need guys to be able to walk in the door, say, hey, buddy, I've played with you a bunch of times in these big games. I know exactly what you're going to do as the left back behind me. I know you're going to make these runs. I'm going to clear the space over here. Cool. We're good. We don't have to sit here and figure this out. When you walk in, you're like, hey, what's your name? Where's your name badge? I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
How do you play? I don't know what you do. Okay, you're going to have to figure that out in the game. That's harder. It's good to have more options. It's, in some ways right now, we're needing to get to where we're settling, at least for Nations League, at least for the first games of World Cup qualifying in the fall, and I don't know exactly what that is right now. It's okay, but we'll see. I mean, a lot of conversation about Josie on the Twitch pitch. Does he get called back in if he starts the season hot? I don't know. It depends on, I think, the rest of the pool. If he goes into the first part of the season before that end of May break where you're going into the Nations League semifinal, if Josie Altidore, Jarrett, comes into that 8 games in and has 6 goals and 3 assists, you calling him up for the Nations League semifinal against Honduras?
Hell yes, I am.
Okay. Even if Josh Sargent finishes the season with double-digit goals in the Bundesliga and Daryl Dike scores 4 or 5 more for Barnsley?
Is it illegal to carry 3 strikers?
No, it's not. I mean, okay, then let me go to the next question, because you're calling him in. That's fine. Are you starting him?
I'm seeing how they're looking, in training coming into that, but I'm at least calling in Josie Altidore to have. And I don't know who that is at expense of, but I like having a veteran striker who can provide me something, because the not having that, I'd rather have it and not need it than think I need a veteran striker to come in here who can ride the ebbs and flows of the game and who has been here before.
Okay, I'm going to drop a question that you guys can think about while John does his read. Don't get distracted too much because you got to judge him. But
okay, I'm leaving after I answer this quickly. So okay,
you can answer it, and then you can run out the door and hide and put on a hazmat suit. Alex Facine clarified on his Sebastian Lletget slander that he dropped a minute ago. It wasn't slander. I'm exaggerating a little bit.
It's okay.
He said, talking elite about Lletget, not disparaging him, I mean next level. Who in the U.S. men's national team pool right now would you consider elite? And I'm guessing world class would be the synonym we could use here.
Yeah.
Elite. Who are you terming as elite? That is a step above a next level from Sebastian Lletget's level. Jarrett?
Based on what we've seen initially, I don't want to put too much pressure on the man, but I mean, Weston McKennie's been a problem. Christian Pulisic, when he's on, I mean, the problem is it's always, dependent on form with a lot of stuff like this. But if he'll ever play with the ball at his feet, Zach Steffen, which playing for Man City, if he's ever going to get good with the ball at his feet, that's the way to do it.
You've left out Serginho Dest.
I was getting there. That's who I was going to go to next.
Okay. All right. Well, you can still go lobby UEFA about Scotland, and good luck with that. And I hope it goes well for you.
Things to do. I'll deal with them later.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you later.
All right. Sounds good. Take care.
Adios. All right, John. Tell us about Steve Apolinski and Decatur, GA.
Apolinski and Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network for wrongful death and serious injury matters. There's only one place you need to go, 3 different ways that you can do it. You can pick up the phone, give Steve a call, get a free consultation, 404-377-9191. You can shoot him an email directly, steve@aa-legal.com, or you can go onto their website on the World Wide Web, large device or small, type in aa-legal.com, and hit the enter key, the return key, the arrow key, whatever advances you to the homepage for Apolinski and Associates, LLC, and you can get the full 411 about everything that Apolinski and Associates, LLC can do for you. If you are in one of two time zones, the Eastern or the Central, as a client in Georgia and Alabama, for wrongful death and serious injury matters, they have over 30 years of experience, over $40 million in judgments for their clients in those areas. And if by going to the website, you still have questions, a pop-up window pops up, because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up 24/7, 365 and a quarter. Thank you, Chris Hutchison, and you can get your questions answered that way. If you wanted to do it even right now, you could do it and get your questions answered in the pop-up window. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, they are recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine for being one of the top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia. We're talking about only one group. It is Apolinsky and Associates, LLC, and the website is aa-legal.com.
All right. Mateo is going to get Mike Conti on the line. We will hear what people thought about John's read as Mike joins us. What's up, Mike?
I thought John's read was outstanding, even though I did not hear it.
You are right there with Alex
That's
Bassine and
awesome.
some others who just give default great scores.
That's epic.
I think it's trying to curry favor, maybe. Is that a possibility?
No. I mean, I think I've
Where
been,
could
I
where could I be in a position to curry favor?
I was going to say, I think I've been well curried with you guys by now. I might be saying
now.
I think so. It's also very funny that when we add you to the show, Mike, John's video freezes and has somehow caught him in an even better screen cap
no
than
can't be
last
worse
time.
than Wednesday.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
John, my apologies. Do you want me to disconnect and let John unfreeze?
Oh
No, because then
Let's
you'll freeze him
keep it
again, I
frozen.
think.
Yeah, no, just, hey, it is what it is. The picture says whatever the picture's going to say. I'm not worried about it. It's all good.
It's
Run
saying
frozen on
something.
my end, John. I can see you just fine. So
It's
maybe this is the
saying
Twitch bit.
something. I know. I can see that much. Oh, boy. All right. I'm going to start you with this one, Mike. Ricky Ricardo in the Twitch pitch with a good one now that we know the schedule.
Huh.
In the regular season, Atlanta has never beaten Miami, Red Bulls, and Seattle. Do you get first wins against all or any of them this season?
Well, absolutely Miami, because you're going to have plenty of chances. Red Bulls, let me pull up the old schedule here.
Because I will have a follow-up question on said schedule.
Because I think a lot of this is going to have to do with, match compression and, do you play Red Bulls at a good time or a bad time? As you know, can I type and talk at the same time? Apparently not.
You could put a pen in your mouth, Mike.
You could. No, John's unfrozen now. Good
No.
times.
I told you. Okay, so yeah, Miami, absolutely. Here's the thing about Red Bulls. Your home game against Red Bulls, you play midweek before. So you're at the end of a stretch where you play 3 matches in 8 days. And there's travel in there as well. You're at, ironically, Red Bull Arena to play New York City
Yeah.
the Wednesday before. And then you're playing that afternoon, Sunday afternoon against Red Bulls. So that's tough. Again, we don't know what Red Bulls are going to be like by then. We don't know what Atlanta United will be like. Injuries could be a major problem by then. It could be no factor at all. We just don't know. But I think just looking at the way the schedule aligns, and then you go back to Red Bull Arena midweek after playing Toronto and going into decision day. So I can't confidently declare, yes, absolutely Atlanta United's going to get their win against Red Bull this year. And certainly I can't say that about Seattle because it's a road game. So, yes, I feel very good about Miami. You're going to play them 3 times. I'm less sure about Red Bull, and I would not put money on Seattle. But again, we don't know. We don't know what Seattle's going to look like on May 23rd. We don't know what Atlanta United's going to look like on May 23rd. I mean, Atlanta United could really be rolling. They could be very, very comfortable, having gotten through CONCACAF Champions League. Everyone's got the Heinze philosophy down pat. Everyone's healthy. You've got a lot of depth. You've got the spoil of riches at a couple different positions. Seattle could be completely picked apart by injury and playing the Brian Schmetzer way, which is, just kind of playing very negatively and trying to get a draw.
He's saying they might play 2 up top this season.
Yeah, I'll believe that when I see it. Yeah, and play 2 up top without Jordan Morris. Okay.
Yeah.
At least
Freddie Montero's back.
I mean, I love Raul Ruiz-Diaz. You guys know that.
Yeah.
I love him. But all right, I'll believe that when I see it. So a great question by Ricky. I don't like where those Red Bull fixtures line up.
Okay.
And it all has to do with match compression. That one at the end of the year is really, really brutal. I mean, the schedule maker did Atlanta United no breaks. The final week of that season, having to play Toronto at Red Bulls, at Cincinnati on decision day. That's going to be really, really tough.
Mm-hmm.
All right, last night.
And John, not to interrupt, sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
Of course, the other possibility, too, is that Atlanta United might have the Shield wrapped up by November the 3rd, and they're playing academy kids and second-teamers and deep bench and stuff like that. And they might not even want to beat Red Bulls by then, right?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Yes. So, all right, last night we were at Lost Druid. Jason and I were for our show. And one of the questions that Jason brought in for the show last night, the 5 most, what was your adjective, important?
5 most important games for Atlanta United to have a successful season.
Okay.
And we pretty much agreed on the 5. I wanted to put that question to the floor and see what your 5 most important matches are in the grid this year in the regular season.
All competitions or MLS only?
MLS only.
Okay. Well, it's probably cliche to say the first one, right?
That's on
No,
mine.
we did. We did.
I do think that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
You're playing your rival. You're playing a team that finished way above you in the East table last year, a team that, unfortunately, hate to say it, kind of dominated you at times. So, I think that's a point where not only could you have an early confidence builder, but it's also a really, really kind of critical time in the formation of this team, especially kind of a youngish team, where you'll have just played Aloe and SA on Tuesday, and hopefully you've gotten a positive result. You're going through, but if not, Atlanta United has only won one of their season opening league matches ever, and it was last year. And you won it, but you kind of lost it because Joseph got seriously hurt in that match. So, boy, I would love to know how it would feel to go into the second match of the league season with a lot of positive momentum. And I think you have a really good chance to do that at Orlando. So that's one. I think your home fixture against Nashville Memorial Day weekend is really, really important because you go into a stretch after that. 3 of your next 4 are going to be at home, but they're all against really good teams. And this is also after you've played at Seattle. So you might be coming off a not-so-great result.
I think the big one with that, too, is there's a big break for the June double international window between the Nashville game and then coming back, and I think you want to end on a positive.
And not only that, even if you're playing an Open Cup would be pretty much over by then. So
maybe. We don't know. The Open Cup's weird. I hope there's an Open Cup game in that window because I hope they don't sit for 3 weeks without a game.
But even if you do, Jason, you're right. Like, again, you want to go into those breaks on positive notes. You don't want to be stewing on something. And it would literally be 3 weeks. It'd be more than 3 weeks before you play again. And then those are tough games. Philadelphia, New York City, and Red Bulls. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a really, really critical one.
That was number 2 on my list.
I think that, and again, it's cliche, but the 2 matches you're going to play at home on national TV with the Benz in a 3-level configuration, Columbus and LAFC, are really, really important. Maybe more from an emotional standpoint than anything else. I mean, I think you want to see how you stack up against Columbus. You're going to play them again 2 weeks later in their new stadium. I think you want to make a statement that you can play with the defending champion. I think they already made that statement, quite honestly. I mean, I thought they were the better side on decision. Atlanta was the better side on decision day last year. Mm-hmm. There was a horrible referee.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not a horrible referee, but there were some very questionable non-calls on penalties.
He had a bad day.
He had a bad day. That's more diplomatic than what I would say.
I like Ismail El-Fat, so I will defend him, but he had a bad day.
He's a good referee.
He had a bad day.
I like Mark Geiger. He has bad days. I mean, it just happens. I like Jair Marufo. He has bad days. They all have bad days. They all have good days. So I think, again, those two matches on national TV, God willing, hopefully with 70,000 fans. I know that's what they're targeting. God willing, that happens. As an aside, by the way, before I continue, major shout out to SDH listeners. I know I came on with you guys a week ago. I said I was having trouble finding a jab. I got so many emails and a couple DMs from your listeners helping me out with that. I'm getting my first jab tomorrow. So
there you go.
Thank you very much to all our listeners. And I just say that because the more of us that get jabbed between now and Saturday, July 24th, when that Columbus match comes about, I think the better the odds that we could have 70,000 people in the Bend. So
there you go.
I think from an emotional standpoint, those two matches are really important. And then
I had one of them. I had the Columbus game on my list.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Yeah. And you know, I could absolutely see an argument for that. And the last one is that final home game against Toronto on October the 30th. You will have played the Wednesday before against Miami, also at home. You want to go into that decision week of the season in good shape. You don't want to repeat what you had to do last year, where you were desperately needing results on decision day, and your opponent did not necessarily need incentives to get a result, and you were just really climbing uphill. So I think that final match of the year against Toronto at home on October 30th is really important, because it's going to be tough playing midweek on decision week at Red Bulls, and then, you know, maybe needing to go to Cincinnati and get a result of some kind, either for a seed or for the Shield or just to get into the playoffs. So just as it was important for Atlanta United to win their final home fixture, which I also believe was against Cincinnati last year, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep.
You know, they and I remember sitting in the press box that night after the game was over and watching everyone else kind of collapse all around Atlanta United. And suddenly Atlanta United had a really good chance going into decision day. You know, it could be kind of the same vibe this year, where you might need to get something against Toronto to not have to sweat out those final two road fixtures. So those are the five that stand out. It's a really good question. I have to be honest, I haven't really examined the schedule in that much detail yet. I've kind of been looking more at, okay, when's Atlanta United going to be really busy in terms of match compression?
Yes.
What are kind of the feature home matches that we're all going to look forward to? I haven't really gone too deeply other than that. Like, as I look at the schedule now, okay, you play you play Miami and then Montreal, but you're at Miami, and then you play Montreal at home when you could have played them both on the road. I don't know. I haven't really looked at it that deeply yet.
Well, we had three of the five. We had three of the five that were the same.
Okay.
I didn't have LAFC, and I didn't have the Toronto game. I had instead at Philadelphia on September 25th, because it's your first game back on the road for over a month after playing Nashville, Orlando, Cincinnati, and D.C. I think Philly will be a team you're battling it out for playoff seeding in the top part of the Eastern Conference, and that's a big test. You should be playing some of your best soccer by that point. And can you go into Philly and get a win on the road against a top team? And I've got decision day, because I think the East, I think it's going to come down position seeding in the playoffs. I think it's going to come down to the final day. And I think Atlanta will be in, but I think they'll need 3 points to get a higher seed. And I think it's going to be a battle all the way down to the last day. So decision day will feel a lot like it did in 2017, in my opinion, where you could bounce around from, you know, I think you went in third, you ended up in fourth, if I remember right, but you were as high as second when you had a lead, and you were as low as fifth going on the road in a play-in game at one point when you were trailing or when you were level and other scores were going against you. So I think we'll be doing a lot of scoreboard watching on decision day to know where this team ends up getting seated.
Yeah, and I think Cincinnati is going to be playing for something too. I really like what they have done this offseason. And plus, it's in their new stadium. Cincinnati, I think we're going there twice, aren't we? Yes. Atlanta's also there on July 21st. So, I mean, it won't be the first time you've played in their new stadium. But, you know, that's going to be a really loud, hostile environment. It's going to look a lot like Red Bulls. But with a supporter stand that's going to look a lot like that wall in Orlando, I think Cincinnati's done a really, really good job of designing a park that's going to be really, really difficult to play. So, yeah, we'll see. I'm with you. I mean, I think there's going to be meaning attached to that match for everyone. I can't really remember a decision day where Atlanta United wasn't playing for anything, good or bad.
Yeah.
So it's a really, really safe bet that's going to be a match fraught with tension again this year.
Yeah, no, I was right there with you. It's the first game overall, the last game of the season. I slid it from the Toronto match down to the FC Cincinnati match on decision day just because of the obvious. I had the Nashville game, the first one on May the 29th, because you will have played 4 of your first 6 on the road. Then you come home for that Nashville game, and that's the last one you have before the international window that clears out the first 2.5 weeks of June. Then there's the Columbus match in August, August the 7th, where that's the last one where you will have played 7 of 10 on the road, and you're trying to wrap that up before you get the next, I think, 7 of 9 at home. And then that Philadelphia match was the one that we've been talking about. Those because that's going to be there for something. So those were the 5 that I had.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm glad that we have a schedule that we can kind of play this game with now. It's fun. And, I do credit the league for putting the whole thing out, not going in chunks.
Yeah.
I think the scheduling formula is common sense. Look, I mean, here's the thing. I'm not going to be able to debate anyone who's going to say, well, the supporter shield's not going to mean as much this year because you don't play everyone. That I get that. I totally get that sentiment. You look at Atlanta having to play Seattle and LAFC out of the West. There might be other Eastern Conference teams that are playing, I don't know, Austin and Vancouver instead. Like that's tough. That's a tough call. And Atlanta United's scheduling pod is not easy. And when I say scheduling pod, I'm talking about the teams that Atlanta United's going to play 3 times as opposed to 2. There's some challenges in this scheduling pod. You're going to play Cincinnati, Montreal, Orlando, Miami, Nashville, Toronto 3 times each. Toronto, Nashville, and Orlando, that's tough. And Miami could be tough. I mean, that's become a derby game now all of a sudden. You hope that Montreal and Cincinnati are what you expect them to be this year, but you don't know. But I'm at least glad that we have a full schedule. I think from a travel standpoint, this is the best way you can do it.
Yeah.
I do think it makes sense to backload the schedule the way they've done it. I am concerned that it doesn't leave you a lot of wiggle room if you have a postponement. But as some people have pointed out, and it is accurate, if you get everyone vaccinated by, I don't know, the end of May, early June, I guess in theory you're not really going to be worried about postponements by then because everyone's vaccinated. I'm talking about players. I'm not talking about the world.
Right.
So that part of it makes sense. It's good. It's good that we have things to look forward to. I'm glad they've committed to 34 matches. A lot of teams are playing through those international breaks. Atlanta United is not. That's going to make them very, very busy at the end of the year, but I think that's the right thing to do because they're going to have a lot of players, potentially away on international duty. I think one other thing we might need to look at, and Jason, you tell me, I mean, is it a done deal that George and Miles are not going to be on the Olympic team? I know.
No.
There is still a possibility that could happen.
100%.
And if it does, man, I mean, you look at starting mid-July. I mean, wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You could be without them for 10 matches because you're playing all the way through July and August. So, that's something to be concerned about as well.
It's going to be tough because you've got Ezequiel Barco, who will almost certainly be called up to Argentina's U23's. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to say no on Barco because that opportunity could raise his value. You're getting later in his contract. You're going to want that to happen. But you can't say yes to Barco and no to Miles or Bello or Lennon. Now, if it's all three, then that's a huge challenge. You do have the depth, and it's probably why you went out and did some things for depth, just in case. I don't think it would be all three. I think Miles by far is the most likely. I would actually think Lennon might be more likely than Bello here. I think Bello, there's a little more competition on that left side. You've got more things you can do there. You don't have to call up Bello if you're Jason Christ if you qualify. Lennon could be the best right back who's age eligible by that point. I really think he could be. I think this year Brooks Lennon is going to have a big, big year because I think the system is so tailor-made for him. And he might get the call.
I just, Christ did not sound overly understanding of Atlanta United not allowing those three.
No, he sounded petty. And that's what angered me about it.
That's what concerns me. Is he going to retaliate against them when it comes to selecting a team for the Olympics?
To be perfectly honest, if he does, it'd be good for Atlanta United.
It would, but it's not the right thing to do.
No, it's not, because he's not going to do that against Christian Pulisic. If Pulisic is wanting to go and can go and the club allows him to go, he'll go. And he wasn't going to be part of this qualification group. There's a bunch of guys in Europe who you didn't even consider calling in because you knew you weren't going to get called up. You knew they weren't going to allow them to come for qualification tournament. So to do that with Atlanta and the way it was structured, I mean, they knew these guys were not going to be available. This was not a surprise to them. They didn't put the lineup out or that roster sheet out. They didn't put that out and then get the call like, oh, yeah, those guys aren't going to be allowed to play. They knew. They had to. I mean, they're not that disorganized. They knew. They'd been having conversations. You talk to these clubs all the time when you're putting these rosters together. And then they put it out there. And then they make a point about it in prepared statements in the media availability. It's like, why are you playing that game with these three guys? It's not fair to the players. And it's honestly not fair to the club. Because it's three of your four players on your back line, and you're preparing for CONCACAF, which is a big deal.
Right.
It's bizarre. And it was really bizarre that U.S. Soccer made it a thing. They didn't need to make it a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And look, I mean, the question was asked, and Jason Christ had to answer the question, I guess. But regardless, I mean, that is one major concern that you're looking at because the Olympics are looking it up. Olympic dates are July 23rd to August 8th. The soccer usually begins the week before that. And I'm going to assume, 2 or 3 weeks of training camp? So you're probably looking at
probably two.
Probably two. So you're probably looking at, and then I don't know if there's any intake quarantine or anything like that.
So it's a month without any quarantine discussion.
Hopefully you're not. Yeah, hopefully we're not thinking quarantines by that point, but who knows?
But you don't know. So let's count July 1st to August 15th. Let's be really, really conservative on that. If it's July 1st to August 15th, 5, 6, 7.
6 weeks.
That's 9 matches.
Yeah.
Including LAFC, including 2 against Columbus, including 1 against Nashville. And Jason's right. Barco, for sure, is going to the Olympics. So even if Lennon and Miles and George don't go, Barco is. That's a concern. That is a big, big concern. Not to mention, Gold Cup, Copa America, all the other things that could be in play. Gold Cup, I'm guessing you're probably going to be okay on. Probably.
Well, I don't know, because Gold Cup, just the way the summer's going to go from a national team perspective, it's complicated. And as frustrated as I was with the way that situation with Miles and Brooks and George was handled, they could get called up, maybe not to the Olympics, but to the Gold Cup. And you can't decline a Gold Cup call-up because it's a Confederation championship. So because on the national team front, you've got right now a window, but also the qualifying tournament. June, in that double international window that MLS has taken off, you've got the Nations League semifinals, and hopefully final if the U.S. beats Honduras. That will be the A team. That will be the top team. The best players available will get called up for that. Everybody gets brought in if you get called up. Okay, that's the top team. I don't think you'll have anybody called up for that. Then qualification for World Cup in CONCACAF for the U.S. will start in September. That's going to be your top team. You're not going to call up the same guys, I think, for June that you do for the Gold Cup in July because they're going to need a break.
Right.
So, like your Pulisic's, your McKinney's, your Dests, your guys who have played through the European season, they're going to need time off. So then you're coming further down in the pool. Is that where Brooks gets called up? Is that where George gets called up? You know, is that where you see maybe an Emerson Hindman, if he's playing well? Does he get called up? And MLS has only taken the opening weekend of the Gold Cup off.
Right. And then you have Copa America, which is...
That's in June. So you should be okay for the most part.
Well, you got June 13th through July 10th. You have matches on June 20th, 23rd, and 27th.
Yeah.
You're probably out of the group stage by the 27th.
Yeah.
But if Venezuela gets out of group, you could be looking at...
Well, yeah, that's a good point. Because
it'd only be 5 matches.
This thing's structured really dumb this time around, too, because you're playing 2 groups of 5 and only one team... Yeah, one more group stage match, and only one team's getting eliminated after the group from each group. So it's going to be a quarterfinal after that.
And Venezuela's group, I mean, it's a tough group. I'm not saying
they could finish last. Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, Colombia, Brazil are going to almost certainly go through. So then you're looking at Venezuela, Ecuador, Peru. I mean, I don't think it's a guarantee that Venezuela is among the 2 best teams in that group of 3. But, again, you're looking at Joseph Martinez and Ronald Hernandez. And that group stage, I'm looking at the schedule here, that group stage would end on June 28th. So you know for sure you're not going to have Joseph and Ronald Hernandez for Philadelphia, at New York City, and home against Red Bulls. So I guess my prediction about not beating Red Bulls this year just got enhanced a little bit more. And then if they make it out of group, the quarterfinals are the 2nd and 3rd of July. You play Chicago on the 3rd of July. The semifinals would be the 5th and 6th.
Wouldn't expect them to
be looking at without both of them for that. I don't think they'd be in the semifinal, but they still might be in transit back.
Right.
So you're looking at not having those 2 back until July 17th. And, oh, by the way, by that point, Barco's probably at the Olympics and maybe a few others. So that's scary. That does scare me. Now, Atlanta United is, I think, I'm getting more and more comfortable by the day with how deep Atlanta United is right now. But 1 or 2 unlucky injuries in the wrong spots could make that really, really tricky for them going forward. You know, playing without Joseph, okay, you have Alessandro Lopez, you have Kubo Torres, you have Jackson Conway. You can search your way through all of that. But Joseph is still a very, very impactful player from a leadership standpoint. Ronald Hernandez could be, you know, really, really critical at right back for Atlanta United this year. So it's going to be really tricky, really, really tricky to navigate all of that this year. But it's part of the deal.
It's part of being a big club.
Exactly. When you're a big club, you're going to have a lot of your players called into competitions like this, and that's a good thing. And you just got to play your way through it. But honestly, that, in my opinion, guys, it makes the first 5 or 6 matches of the season really, really critical.
It makes all the way through that Nashville game.
Yeah. I mean, now if you look at it, at Orlando, Chicago, at New England, at Miami, Montreal, Seattle, Nashville, you got to get, how many matches is that? 7?
Yeah, it's your first 7. Yeah, first 4.
You got to get 14 points there, I think. You got to get 14 points.
That's where my head was. Yeah, that's it.
Because there's a really good chance you're going to be dropping. I mean, that stretch where you could be without all that personnel is difficult enough to begin with from an opponent standpoint.
They're going to be missing people too, though. Well, you know, other teams are going to be missing people too. I think Gold Cup is going to hit MLS pretty hard.
Yeah, I'm looking. Well, I mean, so let's look at that Gold Cup window. Philadelphia, most of their domestic potential U.S. men's national team call-ups don't play for them anymore. New York City, Red Bulls, Chicago. I don't know. I mean, Walker Zimmerman for Nashville for sure would be in the men's national team. We'll see. You're right. I mean, they're going to be – Atlanta United won't be the only club affected by this. That's absolutely right.
Well, let's work through that real fast, because when you look at the overlap, the position that scares me with that is right back, because you could see a situation where Ronald Hernandez is with Venezuela and Brooks Lennon gets called in for the Gold Cup, and you're both missing. You don't want to be missing your designated players like Joseph or Barco, but again, it's part of the gig. It's going to happen. You've got cover. That's why you get Lisandro Lopez. That's why you have so many different central midfield options that can play there. I mean, you can do different things with that. You can drop Moreno into the midfield like he's played here last year, like he played at Lanús. You could play Eric Lopez out wide. You could play Jake Mulroney out wide. You've got cover, I think, for everything that's possible in the overlap with Copa America and Gold Cup, except for right back. That's the one that's the trickiest, because you could be missing both of your right backs to national team duty at the same time, or at least for a portion of time where they overlap.
Well, Jack Gurr. I mean, Jack Gurr becomes very, very important.
Well, you got to sign him to an MLS deal, but that's your solution.
Yeah. We shall see.
Well, and GH brings one other thing up too, and this is actually a good question that I don't know how it would work in this case. I think it would qualify. The whole idea of the short-term loan from the twos in a hardship situation. Yeah. You would need a whole bunch of call-ups and injuries for that to happen, because I think it's 14 field players available is where you can trigger a short-term loan.
I'm just trying to think, guys. Is there another player in this team that in a pinch could play right back?
Well, it's Anton Walks. I mean, he would slide over. He would be the guy.
Could Jake Mulroney play right back if necessary?
He could. He played wing back, which you had 3 center backs, not 2, and he played on the outside. In a pinch, he could play. I think in this system, actually, he could be fine at right back. But my guess is it would be Anton, because it's a little safer. It probably depends on the opponent and depends on the matchups. Mulroney would give you a lot more going forward. Anton would give you more security defensively, and it would just depend on the opponent.
But the tough part there is if Anton would have to play right back, and if Miles were called in...
Then that's where it gets a little tricky.
Yeah. Then now you're looking at who's going to be your center back. I mean, you hope Alan Franco would be one.
He would be one. Campbell.
But then, does George Campbell get that? Does Josh Bauer get into that mix somehow? And I don't think Bauer's signed to anything yet.
Bauer's got to earn a contract too, and he's got to earn an MLS contract to be in that mix.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's tricky, but these are problems that Atlanta United has plenty of time to prepare for. It's not worth sweating about right now.
I think the roster they've built was to prepare for it. I think they've started it. Like Will says, I mean, let's say you do have the worst case scenario with call-ups and you lose a whole bunch of guys in the back line. If you trot out Mikey Ambrose, George Campbell, Alan Franco, and Anton Walks as a back line, I'm not freaking out.
Okay.
I don't love it, but I'm not freaking out.
Yeah. No, you're okay.
Yeah.
You're okay. And again, I think your caveat's really important. I mean, Philadelphia, New York City, Red Bulls, I'm not sure about Chicago and Nashville. They could all have guys out too.
Mm-hmm.
We saw that. What was the crazy? It was Toronto in 2019 when both sides had a bunch of people called up, and that was the one where there were 2 penalties right at the end of the match. The one that Toronto probably should not have gotten, and then the one that Pitti put over the crossbar.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There were a lot of players out on both sides that night. It was a very entertaining, wild match. I think it was 3-2 at one point in the first half. I mean, anything can happen to any club in this league in those spots. But I think we're pretty certain that Atlanta United's going to be one of the more affected teams by call-ups.
Yeah. What you cooking this weekend?
Cooking up a whole lot of West Coast Hawks games. So,
oh, no.
No cooking for me.
What's you taking out this weekend?
What's that?
What are you taking out this weekend then?
Get your Wendy's burgers.
I haven't even gotten that part. Leanne's been out of town all week. She's been on the West Coast on business. So, like, I'm a mess. I've been eating beef jerky for dinner.
Yes!
Oh, no.
I just, like, made myself vanilla pudding randomly because
awesome.
I was craving it. And, that's
a good call.
Something I've eaten quite a bit. So, yeah, I'm not really proud of my gastronomic choices this week. But hopefully Leanne will get me back on track. She lands at 4 o'clock. So, hopefully something good before I do Hawks games tonight. But, yeah, I'm ashamed to admit half the things that I've eaten this week.
That's funny.
Oh, come on!
Been a lot of Uber Eats.
That's
a
okay.
lot of Uber Eats.
That's okay.
But you're helping out local. You're helping out local businesses, Mike.
No, I'm absolutely proud to do that. And I live so close to Buhai that like I have a choice of world-class restaurants left and right. But yeah, last night I hit kind of the low point when I had beef jerky for dinner. I need my wife back in town ASAP.
Okay, to try to get you back on track, Ricky has a request.
Okay.
So I think in the last couple of seasons, you've posted a list on Twitter of all competitions and matches for the year, so you could see the possible games mixed in with the MLS schedule.
Yeah, I will do that.
Okay.
I will. Do
Ricky
that.
is requesting this from you.
I've got you, Ricky. It might be later this afternoon. I've got a lot on the plate today, but I'll try to do that this afternoon. I've got you, Ricky. Thank you. Yeah, that's one of the things I've forgotten to do. So I will do that.
And if you guys need a laugh, go back and watch our No Swag Shop from yesterday as the Lou Williams news was first being rumored. I think Mike's head exploded.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if someone's bailed Travis Schlenk out of jail in Marine County after committing theft on the LA Clippers yesterday.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm still stunned by it. And I love all these national people. Oh, the Clippers won the trade.
What?
Yeah, the national people have not been watching the Hawks this year because Rajon Rondo has not been very good. So, take it from Jason, Andy, and I on Hawks takes and not Michael Wilbon. That's all.
Wilbon! And just think about the wing intake per capita and the increase that has happened with the Lou Williams.
Speaking of local businesses.
Yeah, there's that too. But I hope he's not doing that right now because it is a no-no for players to be going there at the moment. Yeah. So,
but you can order it though. Just Jason ordered the wing.
Yes, that is.
Yep.
That is true. You could order it. I have a feeling that Lou likes the overall experience there and not just the wings themselves.
Yeah.
But that's just a guess.
That's a guess. That's probably a good guess.
Solid guess,
yep.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that won't be happening. Hopefully we get some Hawks wins out on the West Coast, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, and again, guys, thank you so much to your listeners for the vaccine help. Really appreciate it. I'll be thinking of all of them when I get stuck tomorrow.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
See you guys.
Bye.
Make sure you're following him, Mike Conti 929 on the Twitters. We got to go back to John's grades from his read at 10 o'clock. He's going fast, but I suspect it's going to be a little long. I think the time was actually okay on it. It's clean so far. A 9, a 10 from Alex Bassine, no surprise. A 9 from Ricky, an 8 out of X from Kefsey. That could be good, that could be bad. J-Dub, light speed achieved +1 for the scientific breakthrough. So fast. Pretty good, though, 8.5.
Okay.
Oh, man, so close to a 10, but that pause a couple beats too long. 9.4, strong close to the week in all caps. Felt like a medication commercial. I don't know if that's good or bad. 9.4, comfortable, like a cup of tea in the afternoon. 9.3, a little fast, but otherwise very good. 8.7.
Well, I remember though, Mike was in the on deck circle, and I couldn't lollygag. I had to kind of read it fast.
True. Dr. D, if you or your loved ones have contracted mesothelioma, out of 10.
There you go.
You did kind of have that feel to it a little bit.
I did.
And then everybody went nuts about you freezing with the pen in your mouth because that was hilarious. -2 for the pedal to the metal start. Went to normal speed +2, then sped up again -4. Today's score was some extra for the do and some extra plus something for the screenshot, 8.9.
Okay.
I think the screenshot might have won a lot of people.
I think it did. It went from a 6 to an 8.9 with the screenshot where I'm eating my pen.
Yeah, that was great. I have no idea with your new camera why it gets stuck in that situation.
No, it's not the new camera. I mean, it's always it's not just the camera. It's when like folks get added in, there are times when it will freeze. regardless of camera.
I don't know. It's hilarious, but it's free. It's frozen longer with your new camera when we bring Mike in, and it is awesome. It is amazing.
Like I said, it's like I told Daniel Price. I said having a pin in my mouth is better than smoking a cigarette or a cigar.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I want to share this before we get back to questions. And if you guys have questions on Twitter, on the Twitch pitch about anything in the soccer world, we are going to finish with those. We're not going to go super long today because I am calling a doubleheader over at Oglethorpe starting at 1 o'clock on the women's side, 3:30 on the men's. So I need to get there, and I need to prepare, and also need to have something resembling a voice for 2 games. So
and lunch.
Yes. Lunch is secondary to all that. I had a big breakfast, so it's really good when you have the Taquito Express like down the street, and you can go and grab a breakfast burrito and a breakfast taco, and like really get going with the eggs and the ham and a little bit of the salsa verde.
There you go.
So good, so good. I wanted to play this though because Jose Mourinho on the Twitter account Football Daily, which pulls a lot of clips from different places in the world. Football Daily is a great follow. Highly recommended. Jose Mourinho sums up his thoughts on his critics.
I don't think anybody is going to discuss rocket science with the guys from NASA. But everybody around the world, they think they can discuss football with one of the most important managers in the game. That's the beauty of football. I got used to it. I appreciate that. So that's fine for me.
Jose's amazing. Jose's absolutely amazing.
I
mean, he is, but Jose's amazing.
That's awesome.
Jose does not care about any of you and what you think at all. At all. All right, Twitch pitch questions, cleaning up the last conversation. Alex Pacine, do you think Ronald and Brooks will both get enough minutes to both get called up? Going to be a battle for time there, though I know there will be rotation. I don't think it's that simple, Alex. I think Brooks will get the majority of the time. That's my opinion right now. And I think he'll get enough to get called up to the U.S. team where it's a little more competitive. I don't think the Venezuelan right-back situation is as competitive. So as long as Ronald is playing some, he'll get called up. Both are not locks for getting called up at the same time, that's for sure. But they both could get called up, and you've got cover. It's not perfect, but it's, if you're down to your third string right back and it's Anton Walks, I'm okay with that. He did pretty well when he was younger and less experienced on a team that got to the postseason. So if you've got a call on him for those games, I think you'll be all right. Will's midfield in those situations, if you're missing a bunch of people called up, he's got Heinemann, Moreno, Ibarra, Sosa, some combination of that. Heinemann, if he plays really well early on, could be a Gold Cup guy. Moreno, Ibarra, Sosa, not so much. And you could even play the three of them together. I don't think Sosa would be in the mix for Argentine's Olympic team. If he starts really well here, that could change. But he's a little bit younger than the group. He was not intended to be called up to the trip to Japan. Argentina played Japan this morning in a U23 friendly. Adolfo Gaich got the goal. Valenzuela from Columbus played really, really well. Maybe the secondary man of the match for Argentina in that. Barco was intended to be called up for that. He was not released, according to Ole in Argentina. I don't think Sosa's in that mix yet. It could change with a good start to the season. Frontline in Will's doomsday scenario of Dom Lopez or Dom Conway Lopez. Even if you're missing everybody you could possibly be missing, you still have a pretty good lineup you can throw out. You really do. Mm-hmm. Perfect Tommy wants to know how Sweet Lou has not purchased Magic City yet. He's probably got a lot of money in that place.
Yeah, there's been
not
a
owning
substantial
shares.
investment, I'm quite sure.
No, I don't think it's an investment. I think it's just spending on the experience.
That's what I meant by investment.
Possibly. It's not investment because he doesn't own anything of it, as far as I know. It's not an investment in that way. It's
investing in the business to make sure that it pays its bills on a monthly basis.
Yes, that. Yes, and the wings are absolutely worth going to Uber Eats, or I think Grubhub had it. No, it might have been somebody else.
You had the lemon pepper.
I had the Sweet Lou. It's the Sweet Lou wings. It is the special. I can't remember exactly. It's lemon pepper. I think it's a little different than like lemon pepper wet. I think it's slightly different. I think he adds a little bit of a twist to it with his wing flavor at Magic City, but they were awesome. They were really, really good. Okay. Buffalo Wild Wings pretending they had the best wings was a very sad joke, Jared _Smith. It was a very sad joke.
You sure you don't want to delete that?
They got lit up by Magic City. Lit up. Perfect Tommy gave you a 10 out of 10 in the spirit of Friday on your read. He wasn't here, but he's trying to help you out a little bit there.
Thank you, Tommy. That was perfect.
A lot of laughing at our boy Jose. Lots of laughing there. I mean, what else is he supposed to say, I guess? You've got the Argentine League on Paramount Plus starting today in English. I know Juan Arango is on at least one of the games. I know Pedro Coates is Golazo Argentino. Tom Robinson, our friend who will be joining us next week, by the way. Tom and Pedro do stuff together with Golazo Argentino. I know Pedro's involved in the broadcast to some level, and I don't know exactly how that's working or who's on what game or what the pairings are, if there's pairings or if people are doing it solo. CONCACAF games have generally been solo in English. But those start today with games from Argentina on Paramount Plus, and you can actually go in, I think, set reminders for it now. It's already all ready to go in the system. The games today, not the greatest. Lanús is hosting Patronato, and Unión de Santa Fe is hosting Sarmiento. The Lanús game at 6 o'clock is probably the one to keep an eye on. I think that's the one that Juan is calling. I think that's what he had tweeted. So be looking forward to that. They are available in Spanish on Fanatis as well. So it will be Fanatis in Spanish. It will be Paramount Plus in English for the Argentine League.
And if folks want to do stuff on Fanatis, what do they do?
fntz.co/soccer down here. That is where you can go and do a free trial. That is where you can go and subscribe. In addition to the Argentine League in Spanish, you've got the Brazilian League and all the different state league weird things. They pick up as much as they possibly can of those games. It's where you can get BN Sports. It's where you can get Goal TV. They have the dedicated La Liga channel, the La Liga TV channel that was previously, I think, only available in England. They have that on Fanatis. They have Tigo Sports. They have Central America TV. Tigo Sports out of Guatemala specifically. Lots of different team-specific channels. They've got the Real Madrid TV in English and Spanish. They've got Sevilla TV. A lot of bonus stuff, too. A lot of archives of stuff as well. fntz.co/soccer down here. I agree, Ricky. Lou Williams' jersey should be in the rafters at Magic City. 100%. 100%. It's lemon pepper barbecue. Thank you. That's what it was. I knew it wasn't just lemon pepper wet. I knew there was something else to it. It's the barbecue that adds to it. Thank you. Yes. Okay, other games in Argentina this weekend, because the schedule does get better after today for the games in this match week. Platense hosts Colón tomorrow in the early game at 1 o'clock. Aldosivi and Banfield, sneaky good game, actually, tomorrow at 3:15. Argentinos Juniors hosting Arsenal at 5:30. Rosario Central hosting Central Córdoba at 8 o'clock. Then we get to Sunday. Talleres hosting Godoy Cruz at 1. Defensa y Justicia and Vélez at 3:15. That is a very good game. River and Racing at 5:30. That is a very, very good game. And Independiente and the hot garbage mess that is Boca Juniors at 8 o'clock. Hot garbage these days. You've got players slapping each other on the field of play. It's such hot garbage. Wow. It is a dumpster fire of hot garbage right now. Yeah, I know they won a game 7-1. Yippee. They struggled to beat Claypole. Come on now. Hot garbage mess of Boca Juniors, and they
All right, so
go to Independiente.
which ones do you want juice boxes for?
Give me the hot garbage mess juice box.
Independiente is a plus 243. And this is courtesy of our friends in the Composite Odds portal. Your draw is a plus 237. Boca a plus 104.
Give me Independiente.
Okay.
Give me Independiente.
And since you mentioned River Plate and Racing, River Plate at home a minus 244. Your draw is a plus 321. Racing a plus 653.
Yeah, that's about right. I'm not going against River in that one. River's got to be better too. I mean, River's not hot garbage mess, but River's not great at the moment. They should be okay here, but they've got to improve as well. Tommy, our resident River fan in the chat today, says, "Why does Boca get the Sunday night games?" Oh, the controversy between River and Boca. I'm not sure. I don't know. I mean, there's got to be some kind of reasoning, right? I'm sure there are many, many black helicopter theories on it. There's got to be.
I mean, is it could it be like with Toluca at home and Liga MX where they always get that 1 o'clock Sunday slot?
No, it has nothing to do with that.
Okay.
No, it's the primetime game. It's not the 1 o'clock Sunday game. Nobody else wants the 1 o'clock Sunday game.
Okay.
Chivas and Club America do not want the 1 o'clock Sunday game. Nobody's fighting Toluca for the 1 o'clock Sunday game.
Well, yeah, I know, but I was just thinking because of the tradition or people drawn to that particular time slot. That was the only reason I put that out there.
People are drawn to the Sunday night time slot because it's the best time slot.
And so you've got River and Boca back to back, but River at 5:30 and 5:30, yeah, 5:30 and 8.
Yes, and River's not happy because Boca's getting the prime time game. That's the point.
Right.
I don't know why Boca always gets that. I'm assuming it's one of these.
Yes.
It's got to be. It's got to be something to do with that. All right, what do we have on Twitter?
A couple from Tafka to wrap things up. One had to do with formations for we were talking about the men's national team and going either 3-5-2, 5-3-2, or 4-3-3. Tafka laid out a starting 11 saying going 3-5-2 doesn't mean we can't control the game with elite competition. I think it's the better way to control the game and be a bit more stout against more dangerous opponents with a 3-5-2.
I would say that if you had the right center backs for it. I don't know if you do. Brooks, I'm fine with in possession in terms of controlling a game. Because, look, this is, I think, a topic that's going to have to get understood this season with Atlanta as well. You don't control the game by giving away possession cheaply. You don't. So if you're going to play that way and you're sacrificing an attacking player who you would expect to be good on the ball for a center back, you're going to need a center back who's good on the ball to be able to control the game via possession. I don't know who that will be. Aaron Long's fine. Zimmerman's okay. Miles is better than he gets credit for. Yes. I don't know. I don't know who it is. Brooks is good in those situations. I have no problem with that. And you don't have a situation where you could drop the defensive midfielder into that because you don't really have many extra defensive midfielders. Kellen Acosta might have been one who improved his stock the most by looking like a competent defensive midfielder in the game yesterday because you don't really have a true six ready to step in between the U23 guys and Tyler Adams. Kellen Acosta might be able to be that guy. It's possible. So we'll have to see where this goes. You can do it at times, Tafka. I think you can maybe make that work at times, but I have more questions about center back than attacking players. So I don't want to sacrifice an attacking player to add another center back and maybe destabilize things even further. I understand the idea that the shape gives you more security, but the shape doesn't do anything. It's the players. And I think you're putting a weaker player on the field in that situation, and you shouldn't want to do that. You should want to get as many of your best players on the field as possible. If you're going to the third center back where you're not quite sure who the second center back is yet and pulling off one of Gio Reyna, Christian Pulisic, Brendan Aronson, I'm getting those three guys on the field. or Sebastian Lletget. I'm getting Sebastian Lletget on the field over the third center back when I don't know who the second is. I want the best players on the field as much as possible. I think a 4-3-3 allows you to do that and do everything you want to do in terms of the way you play.
And then the other topic from Tafka had to do with scheduling and crossovers. When we were talking about Atlanta United playing in the West, playing Seattle and LAFC, Tafka took a peek and he said, by comparison, and he finished this up with a raised eyebrow emoji, Philly plays Minnesota. That's all of their Western Conference foes. Philly just gets Minnesota as their schedule for the Western crossover.
They only play one crossover, or they play Minnesota twice?
Play Minnesota twice.
I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want that. I mean, I'll take Atlanta's over that because I don't think Seattle's as good as Minnesota. And LAFC should be right there, but we'll see. I don't think Seattle's as good as Minnesota. I don't want to see Minnesota twice.
So that was what Tafka was looking at when it came to crossovers, and we're caught up on Twitter.
Well, alrighty then. Let's see what else we got on the board before we wrap today. Chicago announced this week that about 7,000 fans will be admitted to the home opener on April 17th. That's less than 25%. As the season progresses, they can go to 25%, which would be twice that. So I guess it's probably closer to 10%, 10 to 12%, because 25% would get them up to 15,375. But I think everybody will have at least some number of fans in the building for opening day. DC's added another attacker. I still don't know what their lineup looks like. They have added Nigel Roberta from Bulgarian First Division side Levski Sofia. He is eligible to play for Curaçao. He's represented Holland's youth national teams, U15 to U18. Started at Feyenoord's academy. That's where he was produced. Played 2 seasons with Camber Leeuwarden before in second division in Holland before moving to Bulgarian First Division side Levski Sofia. That's a wild ride.
Yeah.
39 games with Levski Sofia, 20 goals and 8 assists. I mean, he's produced. So let's see what he brings to the table at 23 years old for DC. But he goes into a mix in DC with Ola Kamara, with Jordi Reyna, with they've got a couple more guys too. DC's lineup is going to be one of the mysteries here because Eric Sorga, Jordi Reyna, Ola Kamara, Giovanni Bolivar, who is on loan with a buy option at 19, Nigel Roberta now. That's 5 potential forwards. They don't have a right back outside of Chris Adoya-Chim. Left back Joseph Mora, fine. Center backs, and I'm assuming that Hernan Losada is going to play in a 4-3-3. Mora on the left, Birnbaum's out to start with, so that means it'll be Briant and Pines more than likely. It could be 3 center backs, and then you might add Brendan Hines-Ike or Michael DeShields, who they drafted from Wake Forest, into that mix early on. Right side, Adoya-Chim, could be Russell Canals. Central midfield, could be Canals, could be Edison Flores, could be Junior Moreno, could be Felipe Martins. When he is ready to go, he signed a new deal. Moses Nyman needs to play, should be playing from the start. On the wings, you've got Kevin Paredes, you've got Kamarni Smith, who you drafted, you've got Jamil Assad, you've got Julian Gressel, you've got Griffin Yao. Maybe 2 of them play. If you play a 3-4-3, maybe not. Then where do they go? I don't know. I have no idea what this team looks like. No clue how DC is going to look. It will be a team that early on in the season I will look at a lot because I want to figure out what Losada is going to do, and I want to figure out how you take that roster and make something coherent out of it. It feels like you went to the toy chest and just grabbed out a whole bunch of things and are now making up like your own little show with random mismatched toys.
Trying to come up with your own Autobot with all of the Misfit toys?
Yes, something like that. That's what it feels like. We'll see if it works. I don't know. I'm not sure what they're going to do.
Oh, and sorry, I went back and double-checked. The Philadelphia gets Portland and Minnesota. They get Portland at home and then Minnesota at Allianz. Those are their 2
So Tafka's spreading false information. That's what you're telling me.
Well, I spread false by saying that they only played them twice. I went back and looked at the schedule and saw Portland.
But Tofka said they only played Minnesota from the West.
So
you and Tofka have conspired to share false information.
Yes, we conspired to put out a false piece of information.
And I forgot it was Tofka, so I should have done this. Just kidding, man. It happens. It's all good. It's weird with the two games in the West. It's easy to miss some. I wouldn't really want to play Minnesota and Portland anyway, so that's not much better. Is it at Portland or is it at Minnesota?
It's at home, and then they go to Allianz to play Minnesota.
That's okay. That stinks. It's better you get Portland at home, I guess, but that still stinks. The Edward Atuesta rumors are still going in Brazil. Palmeiras and Grêmio are both interested in Edward Atuesta. I don't think the money's going to be right. There were reports that they were balking at a $3 million valuation. He needs to go for a lot more than $3 million. LAFC's not selling for $3 million, so I'm skeptical of it, but there are reports. Bruno Andrade out of Brazil is reporting that Palmeiras has had a bid rejected. They're negotiating. Grêmio's interested. I don't think LAFC's selling for less than 5.
Yeah.
I think that's the number. USA and Honduras on Sunday for a spot in the Olympics. That was decided yesterday. Honduras and Canada tied 1-1. Honduras, the Catrachos, they get through on goal differential to win the group and play the second-place team from the other group, which is the United States. Honduras has only won one game in the tournament against Haiti, 3-0. Now remember, Haiti started that game with 10 players and a field player in goal because of the COVID-19 protocols that Haiti screwed up.
Yes.
Honduras led 2-0 when the goalkeeper was subbed in after a negative test was confirmed. That's the only game Honduras won in the tournament. That's it. So I know there's a fear of Honduras, but where's it coming from? The third best team in the tournament was Costa Rica. They were hosed by the draw. It should be Costa Rica in there, probably instead of Canada. Costa Rica would have won that group. We saw how difficult U.S. and Costa Rica was. This is not Costa Rica. This is Honduras. Now, they've given you problems in the past, and they've been to the Olympics last 2 times. They reached the quarterfinals in 2012. They lost in the bronze medal game in 2016. It's a proud program when it comes to this. They knocked you out going to 2016. Beat you 2-0. Albert Ellis, remember him? He got a couple goals against you in 2015 in qualification. You got to take care of business. We can go round and round about style and progress and this and that, but you got to win. You got to win on Sunday. You got to take care of business. I agree with PD. They should be more afraid of losing than they should be of Honduras. Yeah. It's internal is what they need to worry about. You should beat Honduras with this team. It's not your best U23 team. You're missing guys. It shouldn't matter. You have more talent than Honduras has. You're at a neutral location. You should win this game. There are no excuses for not winning this game. Won't be easy. You're not going to be able to walk through it, but you should be able to do this at this point. We will see how this goes. We'll get into some other things next week. We've got some big picture things that we haven't dug into yet. Ricky has shared a link to Andrew Wiebe's proposal about what a joint MLS and Liga MX could look like. Really interesting, needs more time to dig into and look at the pros and cons of it. We'll do that next week. Financial fair play could get scrapped and changed dramatically. That's going to need some time to dig into. We'll do that next week as well. The rumors real quick on some players looking ahead to the summer after one other very cool thing in international play this week. You have a couple of countries that are going to be in the African Cup of Nations for the first time. Gambia and the Comoros Islands. Both have had to do things a little differently lately. Gambia has been strengthened by a number of players who sought refugee status in Europe. They beat Angola 1-0 to book their ticket. One of the players who was a big part of that, Khalifa Mane, arrived in Sicily aged 15 on a dinghy crossing from North Africa, was taken up in Catania's youth academy. Big part of that team that qualifies for the first time. Comoros had to do it a different way. They've drawn from a migrant community in Marseille. Their coach from that area. He'd been a community officer in a town north of Toulouse, better known for its nuclear power plant. Took a local club into the French Cup, beat a third division team in 2013. He got the chance to be an assistant. Then he got a chance to be the first team coach. He gets them into the African Cup of Nations for the first time. That's going to be very, very cool. I'm rooting for both of those countries when we get to the African Cup of Nations. Players potentially on the move this summer. A couple new names, a couple updates on some established names. Isco from Real Madrid. Inter is being linked with Isco. Antonio Conte wants Isco. Well, Inter still owes Real Madrid money for Hakimi. So you're going to go back to the people that you owe money to, that you're trying to duck their calls, and say, yeah, we want to get this guy too.
Just roll it over into the whole thing.
Oh, really? You already owe us like $50 million. You want to add another 20 to that and take another player?
Yeah, we're good for it.
Yeah, sure. Zidane's not a big fan of Isco, but I don't think they deal with Inter here. Isco could go to England, could go to another Spanish club like Sevilla. I don't think he's at Real Madrid next year. Pau Torres, who is at Villarreal, 24-year-old Spanish center back, he's been linked with going to Real Madrid as a replacement for Sergio Ramos. Now, according to the Manchester Evening News, he might go to Manchester United. That would be a very nice upgrade for them in a position where they need to upgrade. Luis Suarez is being linked with a possible return to Liverpool. This has been getting a little bit of traction here. According to Fichajes, they are weighing up a move for Luis Suarez, who can opt out of his deal at Atleti. According to Fichajes, Jurgen Klopp wants to add experience to his front line and might go get Luis Suarez. Whoa. That would be interesting. ESPN FC is reporting that Borussia Dortmund is setting Erling Haaland's value at $212 million, 180 million euro. They'll lose him for 75 million euro next summer. I'm okay with starting the bar there.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I think they might sell for 150. If they can get double what they will a year later, I think they might do it. A lot of it for me depends on if they're in Champions League next year. If they're in Champions League, they might convince themselves, you know what, it's worth the 75 million to keep him and see what we can do here. If not, I think they sell. I think that's what it comes down to.
A lot of folks are also saying that number is a stay away from us number, that they want to put it that high so no one wants to get it.
I don't think that's going to keep some people away. It's not that high. I think that's the idea, but for Erling Haaland, this is not Jadon Sancho we're talking about.
No.
This is not Aston Villa setting a go-away number of like 70-something on Jack Grealish. This is potentially the best forward of a generation. 180 million euro? Okay. There's going to be somebody who goes in for that, and they might wear blue and be based in London. We'll see. Felipe Coutinho. Arsenal, maybe, possibly. They want Martin Odegaard, who they have on loan from Real Madrid. There is no buy option. There's a possibility, and it depends on which Spanish outlet you're reading. Some are like, oh, yeah, Odegaard's going to come back to Real Madrid. Even if Zidane's here, they really value the guy. Others are like, no, he's gone. Zidane doesn't value him. But now Coutinho, according to the Daily Express, is Arsenal's plan B because they have a good relationship with his agent. Now, this is also hilarious because every month we find out about a new clause in the Barcelona-Liverpool deal on Coutinho. Every month, something new pops up. Whoever negotiated this on behalf of Liverpool deserves every raise you can give them. They should be the head of Fenway Sports Group by now. This clause, the new one, is Barcelona will have to pay 20 million euro to Liverpool. 20 million euro is a lot. 20 million euro to Liverpool if Coutinho plays 100 games for Barcelona. He's currently on 90.
Yeah.
Barcelona's at a point now where it's not even like, man, we need to get some money for Coutinho. It's like, all right, we need to save that 20 million. If we would have got 20 million for Coutinho, which I don't know if that's a guarantee, we'll give him to you so we can avoid paying that 20 million to Liverpool.
We don't want to play him 10 more matches, so we got to get rid of it.
It's insane. It's insane. Like, what other clauses are in this deal that we don't know about? I can't wait to find out. Yogi Love, who we've talked about many times, Fenerbahce are interested in him potentially. He was in charge in 1998, 1999. Okay, that's a weird one. I didn't expect that. I think he's going to end up in La Liga somewhere. Cristiano Ronaldo, there is a lot of conversation about him. Fernando Tavero of AS chimes in from the Spanish perspective. The Real Madrid stuff is legitimately out there. Juventus and what they're going to do is a legitimate question. La Gazzetta dello Sport has said that Ronaldo will defer any decision until the end of the season. He's going to sit down with the Juventus board, discuss future signings, discuss Andrea Pirlo's project, and what the club is going to do going forward. Ronaldo will wait and see what Juventus has to say before making any plans. He's under contract for another season through 22. Juventus has not ruled out offering an extension and trying to keep him past that. I think that's just saying things in the media. Now, according to La Gazzetta, one of the bits of speculation about what Ronaldo's going to want to stay is the Benzema factor. He's not going to demand they go get Karim Benzema, but he wants that kind of player because where did Ronaldo have his best run in the way that he plays now? It was at Real Madrid with Karim Benzema. That kind of player who takes some of the pressure off, but also creates space for Ronaldo. I get it. I understand the idea there behind it. You're not going to get Karim Benzema. I think he's going to go back to France sooner rather than later, but I don't know who you're going to get to do that. But now it's sounding like where it flipped from one side, Juventus is going to push Ronaldo out the door. Now it's sounding like Juventus wants to keep him, and he's going to make the decision on if he wants to walk out the door or not.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's like what, $28 million a year? Is that the? I'm trying to remember what the salary figure.
It's
was.
A lot. It's a whole lot, and they don't want to pay that ultimately. And I don't think they can play the way they want to play under Andrea Pirlo with him, and that's going to be the other part of this.
Yeah.
RB Leipzig have announced the signing of Mohamed Simakan from Strasbourg. This is the replacement that we were expecting for Upamecano. No shock. 44 games for Strasbourg. He'll join RB Leipzig in the summer, paying the release clause. This was the plan all along, it seems like. He can play centrally or on the right side of the back line. Probably more as a center back, I would think. And we're going to end with this just to make Nick Alifi happy on a Friday. A survey from YouGov has found that AC Milan are the brand that are the Italian football club most recognized in America and China. This analysis from YouGov covered 6 indicators: perception of fans, tradition, quality of football, and success. Milan's recent form has seen them climb over the last year from 1.9 to 6.1, putting them 8th overall in the United States. The leading Italian club in the United States, 8th overall. Leading clubs by brand in the U.S. Manchester United, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Manchester City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Bayern, and AC Milan. That is the U.S. rank by brand. In China, Milan is 3rd behind Real Madrid and Barcelona. English clubs might have some problems with how things are going in China. Nick Alifi is wooing in the chat right now. In Italy alone, Milan's popularity has skyrocketed in the last year from whatever their scale is, from a 7.3 to a 22.5, second only to Juventus, who have dropped a little bit. Inter are on top of the table, but only the 3rd most popular club in Italy with an 18.1 rating. So there you go, Nick.
Mazel tov.
Yes. Ram, no Celtic in the U.S. I would like to see that full top 20 or something. Where does Arsenal rank in the U.S.? We know the top 8. Where is Arsenal past that? Where is Tottenham past that? Where's a PSG? Have they really gotten into the U.S. market at all? Where are the Mexican clubs? Where's a Club America? Where's a Chivas? Do any South American clubs factor in? Do any Boca or River factor in? Where does a Celtic factor in? That'd be fascinating. Thanks to everybody who has hung out with us this week. Thanks to everybody who is helping many different people in the SDH universe, not even just Mike Conti, find their vaccinations, find their appointments. Thanks for continuing that conversation, both in the chat and on Discord, and helping each other out. That was something that when we started doing a show, we didn't know if we would build a community that would do those kinds of things for one another. It's been the most awesome byproduct of doing a show and yakking about soccer daily, is seeing a community build up around it. And it was awesome to see a bunch of y'all last night, both in person and virtually. We'll be back at it in the morning. It's not going to be a typical smorgasbord because there's not a whole lot of games in the morning in World Cup qualifying. It'll be a little bit of a smorgasbord, a little bit of a normal show at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Hopefully you can join us for that. Enjoy the Argentine League today in English for the first time in, I think, like 14 or 15 years in the United States. Enjoy that. Enjoy all the other games from all over the world today. We'll be back with you in the morning. Much platio.
Much platio.